and questions and concerns and anxiety all around parenting.
Yes, I do for sure. Hi guys, welcome to the Mindful Mommies podcast. Mindful, full as in F-U-L-L. I am Brienne Morissette.
And I am Stina Martinez.
And we are sisters-in-law, and combined we have 4 very busy boys. Hello everyone, welcome to the Mindful Mommies podcast. We are on episode 4 today, and today we're talking about early learning and the importance of building a solid foundation. Believe me, if you have a child heading into kindergarten, this is the podcast you want to listen to. We're going to have all sorts of tools and tips to help you prepare your child to head into kindergarten with confidence. Today I want to introduce you to our podcast guest. She is my business partner, the co-founder of Little House Tutoring and Education Center. She's also been my partner in crime since birth. We are cousins and best of friends. She has just recently become the owner of the South Beach restaurant in Point Roberts, Washington, and she will soon become the mother to 2 beautiful baby girls. Stay tuned to hear our interview with Tess. You won't want to miss it.
Yay! Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome, Tess. We're so excited that you're here.
Thank you, ladies. I am excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us in your beautiful home. It's such a gorgeous day here in Point Roberts. The sun is shining, and we're actually on vacation, but it's kind of fun doing a podcast on vacation.
Fun so far.
Just no wine though, because you're hanging out with 2 pregnant ladies.
I know, right? So I'm sitting beside 2 pregnant ladies, one who has twins on the way. Tess, I can't believe. How are you feeling about that?
Surprisingly, really good. Yeah,
Good.
very good. Very
Yeah.
excited. My husband and I are both very excited to have 2 little princesses running around.
Oh my goodness. And I am so excited because we, of course, have all boys in our family.
Yes.
So we're going to have 2 girls. Yay.
Finally, some girls to balance it out.
Yeah.
So Tess and Bree, you guys have known each other since birth, obviously.
Yeah.
And worked together since you were 19?
Yeah.
That's a long time.
We started.
So maybe, Tess, you can tell us sort of a bit of the history and, how you guys got started with Little House and working with young learners.
Okay, I would love to. It's my favorite story to tell. Bree and I are very close in age. We're about 6 months apart. And so from the time we were little, we were always, I think, the closest of all the cousins. And so we always had a very, very strong bond. And so what could be better than to go into business with someone that you already know so well and love very much, and also to be able to do that at such a young age. And yeah, like you said, we were 19 years old, straight kind of out of high school, having probably not thinking that we were going to jump into something so serious so quickly, but we ended up just following fate, and that's what we did. And we're trained and immediately started to work with children in the Vancouver area, teaching them using the Orton-Gillingham strategies of sequential learning in phonics and numeracy skills.
So you did an Orton-Gillingham training program.
We did.
When you were 19.
Yes.
Wow. Were you were you very young to be doing that?
We were super young.
We're the youngest.
We were the youngest ever.
Yeah. I think that's actually what they said, that we were the youngest people to ever take the course at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of the people that were taking the course with us at that time were retired teachers. So not only were we the youngest ever to be certified with the Orton-Gillingham certification, we were also younger than our colleagues or peers by probably about 40 years.
Wow.
So it was a very exciting experience, especially because we were very natural with it. And the training just came to us very naturally. It wasn't so much of a struggle for us to pick up these strategies as it was for maybe the other people in the program, because we were actually quite fresh out of school, had been using, studying skills and that so recently, whereas the other people it had been many, many years since they'd been in any sort of program. So yeah, the whole thing was just very exciting. And we began to utilize the training immediately.
And I think important to let the listeners know that we have two other partners. My sister, I don't know, I won't mention her name because I don't know if she wants that, and my mother. And it was, my sister took the course with us at the same time. She's a little bit older. And my mom was a pretty major influence for us in getting us on board with taking this course. And that in itself is there's a huge history with that and how we sort of found out about the course and why we took the course and all of that. I don't know if we want to get into that, but there's some learning issues that run in our family. And so it was just kind of natural that we had interest in this and took the course and got our certification. And then, we started teaching. We started tutoring in my parents' barn.
Which was converted.
Take over.
It wasn't. We weren't working with the sheep in the hay and the students. It was an old barn converted into what we called a schoolhouse, and it was the little house behind the main house, which we kind of coined as the big house. So our little schoolhouse became Little House Tutoring, and that started in 2001. In Southlands, Vancouver. And we have been owning and operating Little House Tutoring in the Kerrisdale area of Vancouver now for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's grown and evolved. And
How
now
many
you're in a
children
bigger
now would you say are
space.
enrolled with us?
Currently, Little House has almost 300 students.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's very...
So we're pretty proud of that.
I'm very proud of it.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing journey, and especially, like I said, to be able to have a journey like that with your family and have it be so successful in so many ways has just been the proudest thing I think for each of us. One of our biggest accomplishments besides our families and our private lives, but definitely our work has been an incredible source of pride for all of us. So, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
So you guys work with kids as young as 2 years old? Is that sort of the youngest? Or?
Well, I mean, it's when you say that, it's hard to believe because I think of Wesley.
Yeah.
And that just... I think when people hear that, they go, "Oh my gosh, how is that even possible that you can work with a 2-year-old?" But when we work with 2-year-olds, it's really a lot of play that is involved. It's not sitting at a desk and teaching. It's building, like we're talking about, the foundation. It's parents that are wanting to make sure that things are in place before they go into kindergarten, right?
And what do you see are like parents' biggest concerns? Like, why are they bringing kids to you and wanting you to work with them in the early learning stages, like pre-K, pre-kindergarten?
I think that most of the parents who bring a 2.5-year-old to Little House might not necessarily have concerns as of that age. However, they are trying to lay a foundation early so that they can have the confidence when they drop their little one off at preschool or even kindergarten that they've had this extra attention at Little House to ensure that the skills are in place. They realize that once that child enters into a group learning format, that the teacher is not, as able to focus on that child's individual needs, because then it becomes a group need rather than an individual need. So Little House is able to provide that one-to-one specific attention to each
Giving
child.
them a leg up, giving them that solid start before they head in. Now, we also there's other reasons why they might have their children come early to us. And sometimes what we'll see is that there maybe is a sibling that's been diagnosed with a learning issue. And they're just wanting to make sure that their other child is feeling confident, things are in place, instead of taking the approach of waiting and seeing or relying on the school system to discover a learning issue. They're just getting on top of it ahead of time. Yeah. Or maybe maybe learning differences run in the family. Like maybe one of the parents has dyslexia. Dyslexia can be it is hereditary. We know that. So it's just making sure that everything's in place, and that and I think the big thing is for us our why we feel it's so important is building the confidence. It's giving your child that confidence of going into school and saying, yeah, I know my ABCs. I know I know that A says for apple. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know, as a teacher, I taught kindergarten for 2 years, and it's one of my favorite grades to teach for sure. The kids that entered my classroom that have had some kind of preschool strong start, early foundational experience where they have been exposed to letters and letter sounds and seeing their name in print and just being in a setting where it's a learning setting that's different from in their home has always really helped, because kids that if they haven't ever been to a preschool or strong start or tutoring facility, often they come in and they're very nervous and they're lacking that confidence. Sometimes it's okay, but the kids that have been exposed to a daycare or another sort of setting outside of the school place often have a lot more confidence. They're like, all right, yeah, sure, I'm ready for this, because kids enter kindergarten as young as 4 years old, and they are there for the entire day. We went from half day kindergarten to full day kindergarten about 10 years ago, and it's a long day for those little guys.
It's long.
I've had kindies fall asleep during quiet time in the afternoon and need to have a nap still, Yeah, it's long days for them. So any sort of way that you as a parent or as a teacher or as a tutor or a preschool teacher can prepare them and help them be ready and feel confident is, I think, super helpful. And I think also it's giving them the opportunity to kind of know what's going to be expected of them when they walk into the classroom, whereas the fear of the unknown, that's real to these little ones. It's what are they? Oh my goodness, I'm going to head into a classroom right now. Well, what is the teacher going to ask me to do? What if there's other kids that know more than I do? I mean, or maybe they're not thinking any of that, and then they get there and realize that there are other kids in the class that know A to Z, and they know their sounds, and they know how to count, and then the confidence starts. You start to see a lack in confidence, and you don't. I mean, that's what you don't want for your child. You want your child to feel good about themselves, and that's just really where I think we're coming from. You can take it or leave it, right? It's up to you as the family, as the parents, to decide what's right for your child. But that's I think where Little House sort of our stand on things,
Yeah, if you back up to the very beginning, so before kindergarten, before preschool, before you even drop your child off at their first care center, if you back up to just instilling that child with the confidence to walk through those doors of a place on their own, that right there, the way they walk through those doors the first time can determine how the rest of their day goes or how the rest of their week goes. Or it can affect their entire educational journey. I know for a fact now, looking back, that the reason I love what I do so much and the reason we've been so successful doing what we do is because me and my partners are able to empathize with these children who are struggling, to feel the confidence that they see in their peers. And once you are able to identify that the child isn't necessarily struggling because they don't have the skills or abilities to learn the same information, it's just that they don't have that foundation of confidence that they need in order to raise their hands and shout out the answers, or stand up in front of their class and feel like, yeah, I can tell you what that means.
It makes a world of a difference.
So it's, but you guys, it's not about, for you, it's what I'm hearing is that it's not about like rote memorization or repetition. Like it's or about,
like, if we do this, it means they're gonna get straight A's in school and make it to university.
Yeah, it's not about the grades. It's about the whole child. You're trying to build
a well-rounded, confident, feeling good child.
At Little House, I think we always emphasize the fact that if the emotional foundation and confidence is not in place, then the learning won't happen.
Totally.
But once you do build that strong foundation,
it's amazing.
The learning just takes off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that so much in the classroom. Like you have to have a solid social emotional foundation, and the kids have to be ready to learn. And if they're not social emotionally ready to learn, they're not open to it.
Yeah. Well, and Jake is a perfect example. I mean, what was it, 5 months ago? I attempted to send my little one, Jake, he's 3.5, to Little House, and just to do the primary program that we have there. And he just wasn't ready. He just wasn't behaving, right? He was not listening, and he was distracted. And then it was like, you just recently we did a little photo shoot, and Tess worked with him for, what was it, 15 minutes. But he was so keen and excited, and he was ready. It was just like it was a readiness thing. He just was ready. And I think that's also important to note too, that you don't want it to become a negative thing for them either. You want them to be ready and excited about learning, and when they're there, then that's when the learning takes place.
Yeah.
And you start to see the success, and you start to see that they're actually excited about it. That it's not like they're not dragging their feet. They're proud. They're excited. They're like, give me more. I want to learn more. Yeah. And that's where I'm at with Jake right now. Like, he's just taking it all in. He's like this little sponge. Mom, what letter is this? This is A. What does A say, Mom? It says A. Oh, whose name starts with A? And so we go from there, and it's fun. Like, we're both having fun. With it.
Yeah, like the learning, when we say learning, it's also, we don't want you to think of the learning as, it's this instructional one-on-one
intense tutoring.
It's games and communication, and
it's learning through play. It's learning through play and making it fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you guys talked about this a lot, how it's so important, especially with the younger ages, to make learning fun and find ways to make it engaging, hands-on, play-based. So what are some of your favorite like learning activities that you do with your younger learners to help develop some of those core literacy skills to help them feel confident when they enter the classroom?
I want to just add too that the what I think they also love so much about it, and you know this, that when they have that individualized attention from an adult
who isn't their parent,
I mean, they love it with their parent if you make it fun. If it becomes a thing where you're now sitting down and doing worksheets, and they're expected to finish this worksheet before they can go outside and play, that's when it's no fun. If you're sitting down and you're playing games and you're incorporating their toys and all that kind of stuff, that's when it's fun. But what we see at Little House is when they have that individualized attention from an adult, it's like, oh my gosh, and an adult that wants to sit with me and play games. It's so much fun. Yeah.
So one of the earliest things you can start to do with your child is building a puzzle on the floor with the letters of the alphabet. So sequencing the alphabet, so simple. I think most commonly you just hear parents walking down the street, pushing the buggy, singing the alphabet song, sitting in the car, singing the alphabet song.
Which is great,
absolutely. But then the next step would be the actual letter identification. So using the song to help you find the letters and to put them in the correct order of the alphabet. And we call that sequencing. So anything that follows a proper order is sequencing practice. And the alphabet would be the first perfect place to start.
And then the kids are actually like using their hands.
Yeah, you're down on the floor, you're moving around.
What we call very multi-sensory. So I don't know if we want to maybe go into a little bit about multi-sensory, because that is what we base the majority of our teaching.
Well, in a nutshell, I think you could say seeing it, saying it, hearing it, doing it.
Yeah.
So you're seeing the letter, you're saying the letter, you're hearing the letter, and you're touching it with your fingers. So you're doing it.
Yes.
So it's a combination of all of the learning pathways.
Tapping into all the different learning pathways, learning styles. You're covering all the basis. And it's a very successful way of teaching all children who are learning to read, write, spell, do basic math skills, all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I know by the end of kindergarten, your goal is to have kids know their alphabet letters and their letter sounds. If they come into kindergarten already knowing that, great, awesome. Are we still going to sing songs about letters and sounds and play with letters and sounds? For sure, all year long. But it's like you've been saying, when they come in and they see the letters for the first time and you present, the letter for the first time, they're like, oh, I've seen that before. I've done that before. I remember when I did that. Yeah. And so it's that confidence piece again.
And I guess it's that as a parent asking yourself, do I want my child to be the child that says, I don't know that? Or do you want your child to be the child that says, I've done that before. I've seen that before. I know that.
Yeah.
And I think, Stina, as a teacher, like, I'm curious, how do you feel of like what are your thoughts on kids that come in like having all of that in place versus kids that aren't? Like, how do you sort of tackle that?
Well, I mean, I think every teacher, like, your goal is to meet the needs of all of the students in your class. And for us here in BC, kindergarten classrooms are usually 22 students. And that is a lot of kids, for sure. But as you go through your training and you continue to get more and more experience, you find strategies and ways to get to all of the kids. For me in kindergarten when I taught it, and like I have a colleague who's an amazing experienced, like, lifelong kindergarten teacher. She's been teaching kindergarten for probably 15, 16 years, and she mentored me. She always uses this reference and to kids. I hope to have her on the podcast one day to talk about kindergarten, because she's a total expert. Her mom was a kindergarten teacher for years and years and years too. She always uses this reference and talking about seeing children as seeds, and how when you have this little seed, you plant your little seed, and then you need to, water it and nurture it and give it air and give it sunshine in order for it to grow. And so she sees each of her kindergarten students as individual little seeds, and she's trying to grow her garden, her kindergarten garden, right?
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, how lovely to have somebody like that as your child's kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, she's a very special teacher, and she's mentored so many of us too. And yeah, she's an amazing mentor. But I think for kids coming into kindergarten, the biggest thing is them coming in and being socially, emotionally ready. And when they come in, whether they, have been exposed to the alphabet a little bit or a lot, whether they come in on the first day knowing all their letter sounds and can name and give the sounds of all letters, and they're already reading, or not, that you're still going to go over it because you still need that repetition.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's little ways you learn as teachers, I'm sure to extend lessons for different learners. And so
So it becomes enrichment as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And some kids need to learn it for the first time, and other kids need to be putting letter sounds together, and other kids need to be practicing their reading. But there's ways in a group setting, like we use so much, I teach French immersion, and so we use so much telling stories, and then we use comptines, which is like little rhymes and songs. And kids can learn, you're learning another language, but you're also learning your letter sounds while you're going through the songs and the rhymes. And
absolutely.
Yeah. That's a big thing we do too, that works for all of the different levels. Yeah.
So, Stina, what are some of the key things that you're hoping that children have been exposed to before they kind of walk through the door of kindergarten?
Again, like I'm not an expert. I only taught kindergarten for 2 years, but I know we do this welcome to kindergarten day in our school where kids come before. I think it's like in May or June we do welcome to K, and I think most schools do that in BC. And it's when kids come and you have all these different stations set up and teachers observe. Well, the new kindergarten class is going through these stations. And so often a station is cutting with scissors because developing those fine motor skills is really important. Using a glue stick, holding a pencil, knowing how to hold a pencil, being able to identify their name is a big thing that we look for and is super helpful. If you can try with your kids to just be like, oh, where's your name? What are the letters in your name? What order do they go in? And like getting them to point out their name too is a big thing we look for because everything usually in school they have their name attached to like their belongings, their books, their cubbies and stuff. So that's very helpful. Another center we often do is Play-Doh, seeing how they play with Play-Doh and getting them to make letters out of Play-Doh. And then another center is the magnetic letters on a like cookie tray and getting them to sequence the alphabet. So just sort of being exposed to lots of different areas that they're going to be doing in kindergarten will help them feel more successful. So having that exposure to using scissors, using a glue stick, holding a pencil, identifying their name, knowing what some of the number letters and then the letter sounds.
Right. But that's something that's part of the curriculum as well.
Yes.
Too. So it's not like you're saying they must know these before they enter kindergarten. It's helpful if they do. It gives them definitely a leg up if they do.
Exactly.
But it will still be worked on.
And I think the biggest thing is that they've seen they've seen letters, they've seen numbers, they've used scissors. It's exposing them to as many different things as you can so that when they come, they're feeling comfortable and confident and prepared and ready to be there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome list of things.
Yeah, that's so tangible.
Yeah, and now it's like putting that into for a mom to be able to picture that at home, how she can put that into a daily routine and how that would look as, a mother at home with her child or children. Or father, of course.
Or grandparents or whoever's helping raise your kids in your village. Yeah.
Because I think the key word there also was the word exposure, and that the more the children are exposed again before entering into kindergarten, then the more confidence they'll have once they're there. Exactly. And the more they're going to thrive.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking for as teachers, I think, in the primary, like elementary school system. So for you guys, what are some of the activities that you do to help kids feel prepared and confident, like you said?
Yeah, I think, we've talked about sequencing. We talked about the letter puzzles on the floor. We call it the alphabet train. Another
one of the big ones that we do with the kids at Little House is we just get right down on the floor with them and out come the puzzles and we sequence the alphabet. That's something we do almost every time they come, right? So it just becomes automatic.
And I think that just saying, get down on the floor is really important to emphasize that children love it when you get down to their level. And that means like in a physical way. They think they're so used to looking up at us.
Yes.
And they're so used to being dictated to.
Yeah. Don't expect your kid to be sitting at a table, for, half an hour. It's not going to work. It's not,
You can actually see them get excited when mom or dad or grandpa or grandma or whoever gets down on the floor and starts moving things around the floor like they do, like a child does. And it's showing them that, that this is how we learn and we're going to do this together and we're equal.
Yeah.
So sequencing the letters, sequencing the numbers on the floor or on the fridge, with those magnetic numbers. Sorting things is a big one. So we did sequencing. Sorting would be a good category to think of. Under the sorting category, sorting colors. So having, soup cans, and you're putting different colored objects into the soup can. Sorting, all kids have those little plastic zoo animals or farm animals, or, you can get a bag of 20 animals for $5 and putting them into categories. What animals belong in a zoo? Which ones belong on a farm? Which ones would you find in a forest? That sort of thing.
Talking about it and asking them questions, and
what does that animal say? Of course.
Matching capitals to capitals, lowercase to lowercase to uppercase. So you can do that in so many different ways.
Yeah.
You'd have
cards,
magnets. You can have a chart and ask them to take letters with the sticker letters and put them on the correct letter on the chart. There's all sorts of imaginative, different creative ways that you can play. We call it matchy-matchy.
We do, yes. Yeah. They love matchy-matchy.
I love it.
Yeah. Stina, you talked about the importance of them being able to identify their name. And so tracing is something that's easily incorporated into a daily routine where, you have, as the parent, written down their name on a piece of paper, and you could slip it into one of those plastic protectors, and they're either just using their fingertip, and they're tracing the letters of their name, and they're saying the letters of their name as they're tracing it. So again, that multisensory, seeing it, saying it, hearing it, doing it.
Do it in sand. Get some sand with rice. Any way you can tap into the different learning styles.
Yeah.
Right?
I used to take Marcus to the beach all the time. My older son, we'd go to the beach all the time, and we would trace with sticks in the sand.
Yes.
And practice our letters with sticks at the beach in the sand. It doesn't even have to be like you said, in a special, at your table or at home or wherever. It can be at the beach. It can be
And next, the big one at Little House is our program is very phonics based. So we really emphasize the importance of teaching the difference between the letter names and sounds. So letters all have their names, which we work on during sequencing the alphabet. But then after we learn their names, we're learning the letter sounds. So like Brie was saying before, when you talk to Jake about A says A for apple. So that's something that we do during every lesson with our students is do a quick review of letter sounds. And it almost turns into a song or a game. We use those bingo blotters. I don't know. I think everybody knows what a bingo blotter is.
Love those.
So we
call
the
it
kids
the sound,
love it.
And they find the sound on a piece of paper and they blot it with the bingo blotter.
And who doesn't like to put a big dot on a page, and the kids just think that's great. So that's something fun to do at home is you say apple ah, they find the apple, they say apple ah, repeat after me, and that's the game. And you carry on with all the sounds of the alphabet.
I would suggest, I think that's something we suggest always is just have if we're teaching a letter, have it up all over the house. Wake up to it plastered on their wall, put it on the fridge. If you're really trying to focus on getting that phonics solid, just have little reminders around the house, and talk about it. Pick up a toy and go, this is a car. What do you hear at the beginning of car? You hear the k sound. You just, any way you can work it into your daily kind of life, right?
Play with letters and sounds and words.
Yeah, the more they hear it, the more they're going to learn. The faster they're going to learn. A big one was rhyming.
Rhyming is the early stages of learning to read. So that's really crucial for learning fluency, phonics, all of that.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I was touching on a bit with the comptines and with the poems and the songs that we use a lot in kindergarten. They rhyme, and it's having that ability to teach the kids which words sound similar and sound different, and having those discussions too, right?
Yeah. Jake and I were in the car the other day, and we were playing the game, what rhymes with this, what rhymes with that, and he was like, mat, sat, bat. We were just spitting them out, and that was a fun game for him to play. The other thing was how to hold a pencil, right? So that's when we work. Really, we work a lot on at Little House, and we teach the clip and flip. So you clip the pen like a lobster with your clippers, and then you flip it back.
Oh, I've never heard that before. I love that.
So just so everybody knows, you point the pen at your belly button, the tip of the pen, you clip it with your clippers at the bottom, and then you flip it back. And that's the proper way to hold a pen.
Clip and flip.
Brilliant. Clip and flip.
Totally going to use that.
Yeah. So we do that. And then the early stages of printing is obviously tracing. But even before that, it's fine motor. So working on stringing things, beading, Cheerios, all of that kind of stuff. Picking things up with tweezers and putting them in buckets.
Mom needs help to put these beans in this jar. And that's a fun way for the child to think that they're helping out around the house, is little activities like that, which is really developing those little muscles in their fingers to make them stronger for when they go off to school and have to hold those pencils all day and that. So
Good. Okay. So Bree, I know you've posted quite a few ideas on our stories on Mindful Mummies, and been showing sort of some fun stuff you've been doing over spring break with Jake and with Wesley, with both of them. What are some of the activities you found that they like the best and that are working the best, and just a few, maybe give us like your favorite 3 that parents could try at home?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of the same stuff at Little House, but I guess some easy things that you can do at home. I mean, stringing Cheerios is always fun. Using little muffin tins to sort out different colors, with buttons or whatever you can find, little toys. Jake just thought it was the greatest thing when I turned a cardboard box into a parking lot.
Yeah, that was so cool.
And I marked all the parking stalls with a particular color, and he had to take his toy cars and put them in the right parking stall. And you can do that with anything. It doesn't just have to be colors, it can be numbers. So you put a number. You can go and buy those little stickers from the dollar store, like the dots, the different colorful dots, and write the number 2 on it, and then stick it on a car and put it in the number 2 parking stall, or do it with letters. It's endless, the stuff that you can do. You can go fishing in the bathtub for letters. You call out the letter and they have to find it in the bathtub. Like, how fun is that for them? They think that's the greatest thing ever.
And they stay in the bath longer.
They get clean. They get clean.
And they're confined to one small space.
I Spy, I think, is fantastic for practicing all of those
colors and
skills.
shapes and descriptive words and vocabulary.
And then they're also, if you're wanting them to practice with the gluing, then they can take letters instead that are stickers. Instead of stickers, they can practice gluing the letters onto letters and all. I mean, it's endless. There's lots of stuff, and there's so much. There's so much stuff on the internet too that you can. Pinterest is amazing for that kind of stuff as well.
Totally, it can be overwhelming sometimes though. So I find it's really nice when I do find someone that I'm following, like, oh, I really like their activities. It's nice that they're sort of synthesizing everything for me and giving me some
concrete,
some good tangible activities. We like that word. I it's the teacher librarian in me too, coming out here, and a working mom. But one of the biggest things for me is reading with my kids, and that's sort of the most special time of the day. And my husband and I tend to sort of divide and conquer, and I often put the 7-year-old to bed and he puts the 2-year-old to bed. And we're doing sort of different things with them, but we both spend a good 30 to 40 minutes reading with each of the kids every night. And it's sort of a special time for us because we have been at work all day, and it's a time to chat and reconnect. But my husband with the 2-year-old, we have these little books that someone gave us when he was born, and it's just one is shapes, one is colors, one is letters. And he loves them. They read the same book every night as toddlers get obsessed about the same book.
Repetition is key. That's why kids love to read the same books over and over and over again, because they're learning so much. And now he's totally able he's not even 2 yet, and he's able to point and be like, that's the A, and then he'll be like, oh, B, and then there's a picture of a B, and he'll be like, bzzz, and he does the animal sounds. And it's cute because he'll do it with my husband all week, and then I'll put him to bed on the weekend, and I'll be like, whoa, you learned so much this week. And then with my 7-year-old, it depends sort of what he's into at the time. For a while he was really into reading dog man books, and
sort of more like graphic novels. But now, because they do these different like units of inquiry at school, they were doing one on space, and he was super into everything to do with outer space. And so we were reading these space books, and at the end of the night, he sometimes just really wants me to read to him so he can relax, but we'll still play games with it, and I'll ask him questions, and we'll get talking about it. And sometimes he gets excited about what we're learning, and I'm like, oh, we gotta calm down and go to bed. But it's such valuable time together to learn, and I think books are such a huge resource as well, especially like for working parents who come home at night and need some time to just like have quiet time to like reconnect with their kids. It's a way you can pull all these things in, no matter what age they are, and just make whatever story you're reading help them learn a few strategies and skills while you're reading it as well. To name the letters, find the letters. What are the sounds? Let's find rhyming words.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know Bree, you've been thinking a little bit about sort of the facts behind early literacy.
Yes.
And there are a few things you learned about that you wanted to share.
Well, I think that it's just important to note, and I don't want to bore people, but I mean, pre-K is the time where it's the most important, and when most of the learning really does take place and is absorbed. So I just wanted to point out that it's extremely critical this time, and kids are like little sponges, right? I mean, we know it. You're going to see it with your little twins coming, and we know it with our kids. It's like they just take everything in, right? That's why you have to be careful what you say around them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, that's really, I just wanted to once again reiterate how important this time is, and if you can, incorporate it into your kid's life in a fun way, and so it doesn't become like this laborious thing, and you don't want it to be a negative thing either for them. You want it to be positive, and I think also the second it does become negative, I think you gotta back off and just kind of let them do their thing, and try again. But
I think we at Little House, we talk a lot about avoiding the wait and see tendency with our kids, and that time before school is, like Bree was saying, it's very important, but it's a very exciting time to be able to fill your kids up as much as possible and get them prepared. I know that when I was little, my parents were part of that wait and see philosophy, and once you go off to kindergarten, the teachers there, that's what they're there for. That and by that time you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so much has already happened, in those 5 years. And again, just how much better that experience would have been for me if I had that exposure starting at a very young age, 2 years old, and being exposed to the alphabet and being exposed to numbers and my name, and that's what I take away from my experience, is just wanting to make sure that our students, when they come to Little House, have had as much exposure as possible, so that when they do walk through those doors, that they're going through them with the confidence that will enable them to be successful.
Yeah, and it sounds like everything you guys are doing and suggesting are things that the kids love. Like, it's fun, right? It's play-based, it's hands-on, it's multisensory, it's ways to get kids playing and learning at the same time, so they don't realize that they're learning. They're just having fun and getting excited.
They think they're just playing games and getting 100% of your undivided attention, and to them that's absolutely good enough.
Yeah, so I think that as teachers and as parents and parents to be, the biggest thing that we all want to see for our learners is them to feel confident and successful. And I think that you guys have some amazing ideas for sort of pre-K and awesome suggestions of what to think about and focus on as parents, and really setting up these little learners for success and continuing that on throughout their education and throughout their life. I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
That's the takeaway, I think, the message here.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps up our podcast for today, and I want to say thank you so much to Tess for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, what a nice time we've had here.
Yeah.
And I know we'll be having you back, hopefully, if you'll let us have you back.
Oh, I hope.
Maybe you'll tell us all about your birth story.
Oh my gosh, can we have you back for that?
Hopefully.
That'll be a first. Yeah.
You'll be able to drink wine by then.